Holiday time is a good time to have a cake as a centerpiece on the dinner table. And what's better than for Thanksgiving having a turkey cake? Really makes a nice showing on a table. So I'm going to show you that right now. First of all, we're working with buttercream again, and I'm anchoring my board so it won't slip around. And then more icing to anchor the large cake. This is a 10-inch cake. And I like to have quite a thick cake to hold the mold in place. So I'm going to measure this right here, and then I'll cut it. Cut into the cake. I'm going to make a foundation. This is the reason I have to make this well right around here, and I'm slanting it this time. Just cut it in on a slant so it'll make a good foundation for the roundness of the mold cake. Now remember, I told you in the beginning that we did have a pan to make this cake. It's the doll cake pan, and it's nice to know how to bake this cake too. I like to start out with 325-degree heat, and then for about 40 minutes. And then turn your heat up to about 350 for 20 more minutes or until done. This way you have a nice solid cake and it will be completely done. We just have to hollow this out so we make a well, and I'll show that to you in a minute. You have to make a foundation so the cake doesn't roll around. Now I'm going to measure this and see if this is okay. See if I have it in deep enough. Not quite over on this side. And you can't hardly judge that. You do have to try it a few times. I think I'm going to measure just exactly right, and every time I have to go back and recut. So you don't want to cut too much off, but we do have to have some of that slanted to hold the cake in place. Now once I get the icing in there, I think it'll be just fine. Just one little place here again. Have that. I want it to sit in firm. Now I'll add a little icing there. And then I'll anchor my cake in place. Now I'll tilt this just a wee bit so you can see that well. Now I set that in like so. I'm going to set that just like that. And I want to cut this out just a little bit here. So when I put the neck, it's a little triangle, then it doesn't slide down. When I first started doing this, after I got the neck on, it would sometimes slide down. So that's why I decided to put that little triangle. And now we're ready to apply the icing. And I have my cake icer tube. And just going to apply that icing. You can see it coming around there. Now the bottom part I'm going to make green, and then of course the turkey will be other colors. But how quick you can apply the icing than using a spatula. Folding down the top of the bag again and filling the bag. I'm using buttercream this time. Of course, if you do like to make fruit cake, you can do this a fruit cake too. Any of these shaped cakes you can use with fruit cake or pound cake. Now we'll straighten that out with our little spatula and rough it up to make it look like feathers. It's just an illusion. It's not going to be exactly like a turkey, but with cakes, it's really an illusion. You can add pumpkins, candy pumpkins around for the children if you like. And keep in mind, you could make smaller turkeys of cupcakes or cookies. I'm going to use a leaf tube for the wings of the turkey, and I'll do that in just a moment. Just like to rough that up to make it look like grass. Cut around there to give it some depth. Just move your little spatula up and down, and that gives it a little roughness. And just roll it around on the sides, again to give it texture. Since the mold came out, I do a lot more shaped cakes because they're so much easier than stacking them. Of course, if you don't have the mold, you can always do it the old way. You see, I'm just filling in the bottom area because I won't have a border at the base of the cake at all. This will just be sprayed green and it'll look like grass. Now for the leaf tube, and this is a 67 leaf that I'm using because I want that little vein down the center to make it look like feathers. And just at the base, make about 3 feathers and then alternate them and get shorter and shorter and shorter. And we'll do the other side. Keep the stroke on a slant so it looks like the feathers is beginning to strut. Or is it she? Okay, now I'm just about ready to do some spraying. I'm going to spray the green and then the black, and we'll get right to that. And now I'm going to color the base of the cake with green. So we want to fill the color cup right up to that ridge. Make sure that it's working properly. And we'll start with the base, stepping back a little bit to cover a wide area. Now the reason why we have so much space here, we want the cake to fit into the meat of the cake. That gives it more support. If we put it way back here, then it'll split. So that's the reason I put it further up in front. And then we go to the side of the cake, just right around and lower it. Now we need some more color. And we'll fill it again up to the ridge. Keep it moving. And now I'll just add some black to this. And all the way up to the ridge again. Whoops. It doesn't matter. We can always overspray. That's kind of nice to know. You might have a heart attack if you get the wrong color on. It's alright as long as I'm using black. And here we go on the wings. Just kind of stripe them, leave a little white. And then overall, leave a little white show, so we're going to put brown in there too to give it a variegated color. It's been a long time since I was on a farm. I haven't seen a live turkey for a long time. Oh, now we're ready to go with brown. We'll clean our airbrush. A little brown. Be sure to wipe off those spots of water. See, that just adds a little variation there, and kind of give it in a circular motion. Sometimes if you hit it sideways, you'll get a nice effect too. There we go. Now I want to switch over to the other tube again, and in a minute I'll be spraying it red. I'm going to add the neck. And remember, I said cut this little diagonal or little triangle out of your cake so the icing won't slide down. So I have to squeeze really big and sort of like a question mark, bring it outward, and a little waddle. Attach it. There's his bill and his waddle. And now we can add red. And I didn't add the head on before because you get a lot of overspray from your black. So that's why I waited to add the neck, or the head. Now we'll add a few little finishing touches here. And we have these whiskers. Make little strokes there. And his eye. And then his feet down below here. I'm cradling my tube again. I like to do that when I have small areas to cover. I can control it much better. And now we're ready for the tail. We have some tail. These are made of wafer paper, and I just cut it into a feather shape and then cut down. Airbrush the paper first. Let it dry before you cut. You can stack several at a time and cut them in to give it a feathered look. Then I used royal icing and put a strip right down the center and added a skewer, and that holds them firm. And then we'll just add those feathers. We'll get several here, kind of overlap them. Just lean them against the cake. And a few more. Just fan them out. Now you can, if you'd like, I used to make a large sugar cookie and make the scallops, and I bake it right on a cookie sheet rather, the sugar dough. And I roll it right on a cookie sheet on the back side of it and bake it just like that. How's that looking there? That looks pretty good. I'll get two more short ones here. But I saw this at one of the cake shows. It was a peacock, and that's where I got my idea. So many times going to cake shows, you'll get a lot of ideas. Let me get that around here so I can see it a little better. That's better. One more, I think. one over here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Now if you want to, you can go back and spray that a little bit, but I won't take time to do that. This time I'm going to write on the cake. I think everyone likes a greeting on a Thanksgiving cake especially. So I'm using the 127 rose tip again. And I'm going to make a ribbon of icing. Now when I first started writing, I had a terrible time, and I used to write uphill a lot. So when I wanted to write straight, I always put a ribbon of icing. And then I had to stay within that area, and it taught me to write straight. So that's a little helpful hint. And there's, you can add some pumpkins if you like. The children always like those little after dinner sweets, so you could add pumpkins around the edge if you like, the little candy pumpkins.